everybody, and welcome to another Amazing Facts video with your host Mr. Amazing Facts. Today's Amazing Facts video is about real life ghost ships, and if you're new to the channel, maybe you can hit that notification bell so you never miss out. It was a merchant vessel that left Samoa's Apia Harbour on October the 3rd, 1955, bound for the Tikola Islands. 5 weeks later, the ship was found with all 25 passengers missing. The ship's radio was broken when it was attempting to send out a distress signal. All the life rafts were missing, along with the captain's log, as well as the navigational equipment and firearms kept on the boat. An investigation determined the fate of the passengers and crew to be inexplicable on the evidence submitted at the inquiry. The RYOU was a Japanese fishing boat that was washed away from its mooring in Amaru Prefecture by the 2011 earthquake and tsunami in Japan. Japanese officials first believed the ship had been destroyed, but it eventually floated into American waters near Alaska over 1 year later. The US Coast Guard decided to sink the boat to avoid it becoming a navigation hazard. RESOLUTE was a ship of the British Royal Navy that was abandoned in 1954 after being trapped by ice in Viscount Melville Sound, Canada. The ship was on a research expedition to discover the fate of John Franklin, a British explorer who had been lost in the Arctic. After being abandoned, the ship drifted 1,200 miles before it was found 1 year later off the coast of Baffin Islands, Canada. Freed from the ice, wood from the ship was used to make a desk that now sits in the Oval Office. AMICA was a classic schooner that was found derelict near Punta Volpe, Sardinia, Italy in 2006. The Coast Guard crew that discovered the ship found half-eaten Egyptian meals, French maps of North African seas, and a flag of Luxembourg on board. It was briefly believed to be a mysterious antique vessel, but when the owner of the ship was found, a man from Luxembourg, it was discovered that it was a modern ship that was likely abandoned so the owner could avoid paying taxes on it. SV CARROLL Deering was a 5-masted cargo schooner that was last spotted with its crew when passing through Cape Lookout Lightship NC on January 28, 1921, while it was travelling from Rio de Janeiro back to Norfolk, VA, after delivering a cargo of coal. She was found abandoned 3 days later off the North Carolina coast. The ship's lifeboats and logbook were missing. The disappearance has been hypothesized to have been caused by weather conditions, pirates, and even communists. Still, there's no conclusion as to what happened to them. The SV Kaz was a 12-metre catamaran that was sailing in Australia with a 3-man crew in 2007. She was found drifting 88 nautical miles off the coast of Australia 5 days later. The boat was in good, perfect condition, except for one sail which had been shredded. Investigators never found the 3 men, but they hypothesized that they may have ended up in the ocean while trying to untangle a fishing lure caught in the boat's rudder, and in the choppy water they may have been unable to get back onto the boat in time. SS BAYCHIMO was a steel-hulled 1,322-ton cargo steamer used to trade provisions for pelts in Inuit settlements along the Victoria Island coast of Canada. On October 1st, 1931, at the end of a trading run and loaded with a cargo of fur, the BAYCHIMO became trapped in pack ice and was abandoned by its crew. Despite being unmanned, the ship eventually broke free from the ice and continued to be spotted floating around Alaska throughout the 1930s. She was last spotted in 1969, 38 years after she was abandoned, still intact and still seaworthy and sailing. SS OURANG MEDAN was a ghost ship found 400 nautical miles southeast of the Marshall Islands in 1948. When an American ship found the boat, it was littered with the bodies of the crew, but caught fire shortly after they boarded and sank. According to reports, the vessel was sailing from a small Chinese port to Costa Rica and deliberately avoided the authorities. The reports state that a sole German man survived the accident and that the crew of the vessel was killed by improperly stored sulfuric acid inside the ship. The SS VALCENIA was an iron-hulled passenger steamer that carried passengers along the west coast of the US on January 21st, 1906, following bad visibility caused by fog. The ship collided with a reef off the coast of Canada. In the chaos, the crew accidentally lowered nearly all the improperly manned lifeboats. While 37 men survived on the remaining 3 lifeboats, 136 passengers and crew on the vessel perished. In 1933, the VALCENIA's lifeboat number 5 was found floating in Berkeley Sound in remarkably good condition. The SV ZEBRINA was a sailing barge that departed from Falmouth, Cornwall, England in October of 1917 with a cargo of coal bound for St. Brieuc, France. 2 days later she was discovered aground on Rosal Point, south of Cherbourg, France, without damage except for some disarrangement of her rigging, but with her crew mysteriously missing. At the time many said that the crew was abducted by a German U-boat, but their true fate is still unknown to this day. The Keegan-Mount Electron was a 41-foot trimaran sailing vessel designed and built specifically for British businessman David Crowhurst to use for the Sunday Times 1968 Golden Globe single-handed yacht race around the world. After setting sail from England on October 31st, 1968, it was discovered without its captain 252 days later in Jamaica. It was discovered from a log that the Crowhurst had encountered problems from the outset and had been reporting false coordinates back and had actually stopped in Brazil to have his boat repaired after it broke. However, because of all the competition had fared just as badly, after the repairs were completed, Crowhurst was on track to finish the race in first place. Realising that as the winner, race officials would recheck his journey and see his lies, and with a deteriorating mental state, Crowhurst scrawled a 250,000 word manifesto on life before presumably committing suicide by abandoning his ship. The Jenny was an English schooner which left port from the Isle of Wight in 1822. It was discovered by the whaling vessel the Hope 18 years later, frozen solid in the Drake Passage, the body of water between South America's Cape Horn and the South Shetland Islands of Antarctica. On the schooner were the dead bodies of the crew, preserved by the cold climate surrounding it. Nobody knows what killed the crew. The Ocean Wave was the one-man vessel of Dutch conceptual artist Bas Jan Alder. This pocket cruiser was designed for his trip from Massachusetts to the Netherlands in an attempt to cross the Atlantic in the smallest boat ever. Alder was an accomplished sailor, but 10 months after his departure the boat was discovered floating upside down 200 miles due west of Land's End, England, by fishermen. The boat was stolen soon afterwards, leaving little evidence, though it is believed Alder fell overboard and his lifeline was ripped out in heavy weather. The High 6 was a Taiwanese ship that was discovered without its crew drifting in Australian waters on January 9, 2003. There was no evident reason for the abandonment. No signs of distress were found, with the crew's personnel effects still on board. Eventually, the Taiwanese police said that the ship was abandoned because of a mutiny and arrested one person who was known to have survived and charged him with a crime. And of course, we have to include the SV Mary Celeste, the most well-known ghost ship. After passing Santa Maria Island in the Azores on November 25th, 1872, the last entry on the ship's slate, the SV Mary Celeste, a merchant brigantine, became derelict in unknown circumstances. No boats were on board when she was found on December 4th, 1872, between Portugal and the Azores. The ship was devoid of all crew, but largely intact and still under sail, heading towards the Strait of Gibraltar. The lifeboat was missing, but the ship was still in good condition and had plenty of provisions in the hold. There was even some half-eaten dinner plates that were never finished. The crew of the ship were never found, and is never known what happened to them. Well folks, we hope you enjoyed another Amazing Facts video. This was Amazing Facts about real-life ghost ships. Tomorrow we have another interesting video for you. It's going to be an Amazing Facts video about trains, all kinds of trains, electric trains, coal trains, steam trains, every single type of train you could imagine. Well, until then, this is Mr. Amazing Facts saying have an amazing day and goodbye.